Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. OpTic Gaming got themselves into an absolute Twitter war last night during the Apex Legends World Championship against the fans of Chinese team DreamFire. Some of the comments being made on this, absolutely insane stuff. OpTic's social media on a rare occasion actually fought back at it as well. Scump and Zinni weighed into the discussion. We're going to break it all down today. If you're able to tweet your thoughts in the comments below, hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Let's just dive straight in. Yesterday was the Championship Sunday for the ALGS, the Apex Legends Global Series, Global Finals or whatever. $2 million on the line. One team was going to win like 600, 800k of it, something like that. We'll get into who that team was over the coming minutes. But OpTic's team, of course, are involved. Scump and Methods were getting up very early to watch party it in the morning because I think it was down in Birmingham. And OpTic were looking really tasty early on. The way this tournament works, the format is actually really interesting because you have to win enough or place well enough in all the games that are played in order to accrue points. And then once you get to a certain amount of points, then you reach effectively match point. And if you win any game from then on out, then you're the champion. So OpTic actually won a game here that the Scump was particularly hyped about, so they did very well. Really consistent, the OpTic team as well, but we'll see what happened later. So this was at one point in the series where, okay, these are the 20 teams involved. OpTic at this point were number one in the standings by quite some margin, but the standings doesn't matter, right? It's an interesting angle because it's not like first to 100 points wins, it's first to 50 points gets to match points, or anyone that gets to 50 points is then on match points, and if OpTic win another game from match 5 and beyond, then they win the championship. But if other teams, let's say TSM, we'll come back to them, currently 13th, if they can get up to 50 and then win again, they win no matter how many points OpTic or anyone else might have. Because I was thinking as I was watching this before I figured out what the format was, that, you know, what if it's first to 100 points and OpTic make it there in like the middle of a game? Pretty underwhelming way to win the World Championship, right? You want to win the championship by winning a game and then that's it. So it's obviously pretty intense. So at this point, these were the standings. And in second place was DreamFire, a Chinese team that we will certainly get back to. So these were the standings. And the cool thing about this is that any team here theoretically could win still at this point. But OpTic were in the driver's seat to do so. The first and at this point only team to be in that match point scenario. So they were looking really good. But you've still got to win again in order to get the job done. And this is when the drama started to unfold. So this was actually in match 3, slightly earlier than the screenshot we just saw, but it still was at the time that, DreamFire and OpTic were kind of in this 1-2 situation. Now, usually what happens here, the teams dropped in to certain points of interest on the map that they then control. They have fights with other teams, see who's going to come out on top, this type of stuff. Now, it is a strategy to third party these fights. So for a team to drop in on another team and try and either get them out of there or just straight up eliminate them from the game, take the loot for themselves, and also, as I say, I'm not too familiar with Apex, but that seems to be a general strategy. And it is a strategy done, let's say, against a team like OpTic, right? OpTic maybe are fighting a team that's further down the order, 15th, 16th, might well go for a third-party situation to try and dislodge that top team. It's not, I imagine, particularly commonly done when the two teams involved are number 1 and number 2. So given the fact that DreamFire were second place and OpTic were, basically it was 1-2 at the time, maybe OpTic were second, DreamFire were first in this situation, it's pretty rare that OpTic would come through and do something like this to the team of DreamFire. Now, it's not to say that it's against the rules or anything, it's part of the game itself, but the DreamFire fans were not happy that the OpTic guys had dropped in and, had their way with them effectively, went on to extend their advantage in the current point standings and put DreamFire in a really difficult position. I think they eventually finished the tournament in 7th DreamFire, whereas OpTic had a really good run as a result of this, despite the fact that DreamFire at this point were looking really good to potentially be a top challenger for the event victory. So, and this is why, as I say, this tweet, right, 3,000 likes, doesn't look like anything special, but this tweet went crazy, and we can see why here. So this tweet had almost 1 million views, 3,000 likes and 8,500 replies. And you might think, why exactly? And as we go further up here, we'll find that even Hitch's tweet with a little bit of Chinese lettering has quite a lot of replies as well. And this is a consistent trend. We'll get to Scump's tweet in a second, but every single tweet that they then did has masses of replies, especially even this one. This got another 8,000 replies from, and this got 10,000, and we'll get to that in a second, from effectively I don't know if these accounts are bots. I hope that some of these accounts are bots and these aren't all just real people. But accounts such as this was probably the most tame thing that any of these replies said. But there were a lot of fans of this Chinese team that felt disrespected by the way that OpTic had played this situation and decided to go on an absolute rampage against OpTic on social media. And it was especially incredible to me just because I thought China had banned Twitter, right? Or X.com, whatever. I'm pretty sure, like, it's not allowed in China, but I imagine that people still use it. They get around VPNs, firewalls, whatever they do. And obviously there's a lot of people in China. So even if it's a small percentage of people that are actually on Twitter from China, there's still, you know, it's still a large amount of people, right, that obviously follow the Apex Legends scene as well. So I just was like, okay, hang on a second, how does this even make any sense? But apparently it's what's happening. And replies like this, I mean, we can have a quick look at the replies if you want. I have to be careful what I scroll through here because some of this content will get the video demonetized, like no doubt about it. But stuff like this, people are replying, DreamFire equals noob team, and we get 284 replies to this one. And I mean, all the replies are something like this. If you can see some of the names on these accounts, you got to wonder whether these accounts, like whether there's anyone actually behind these. But I mean, this, as I say, this is some of the more tame stuff you'll find, especially this tweet. So fair play, I think, to OpTic for doubling down on this, because typically OpTic as an organization, especially in the COD side, they don't tend to throw too much trash talk the way of other teams. I think Hex's opinion has kind of been that we're the #1 team, we're the team that everyone wants to be like and to beat and stuff like this. So it's other teams often that will throw the shade at OpTic to get the impressions, if you see what I'm saying. That's kind of, and Hex maybe thinks that if OpTic are throwing shade at other teams, then that's almost like punching down and it doesn't reinforce their position as the top dog, if you see what I'm saying. So I think generally OpTic's social media strategy is not to you know, poke fun at other teams the way that, let's say, Florida Mutineers would have done in the last several years of competing. But apparently in this case, OpTic either changed their mind or they just thought that it justified a different approach. And absolutely right, because, look, if you think the country you live in is racist, and it might be, you know, look through some of these comments for a few minutes and you might have a different perspective on things. So we see a lot of replies like this. Any tweet that's in support of OpTic or perceived to be in support of OpTic will have a lot of, you know, replies the other way. Even this from Chris's hidden, right? I mean, just outrageous stuff. And we can even scroll down. I wanted to just look at some replies here from, I mean, even this on OpTic versus DreamFire is pretty funny. And I think it was this one that they were, I mean, 36 likes, 400 replies. And they're all something like this. It's just so outrageous. And as I say, like, do you think there's actually real people behind these accounts? Like, are these bots? Because, I mean, you can see the account names there. Obviously, I don't exactly know what to say about this. And all of them are the same. The insults are all the same. You without mother. Like, this is basically the consistent trends here. And so I'm like, are these just the same people? Like, even if we go show more replies, you'll see, like, it's just the same thing in all of them. I don't understand. And even Shah, who is absolutely not an OpTic fan, replied to this. The DreamFire fans thought that he was and sent him some crazy stuff. And these 4 DMs that he got were the most tame by far. I simply cannot share the more explicit ones here because, I mean, the video just gets demonetized instantly. So the OpTic guys, of course, saw this going down and they wanted to get in on the action, right? Scump's smoking on that DreamFire pack, it seems. Right here, another Scump Cigar picture. There's been maybe 2 or 3 Scump Cigar pictures. So another one for the arsenal of pictures to deploy at some point in the future. But yeah, Scump wasn't having it, of course. Even Methods comes in as well. Today my father asked me to clean his car for him, spent the whole morning doing it. You know, DreamFire, I replied. He laughed and nodded, smiled and nodded. He knew that it was washed. So good stuff. And this has obviously got a fair few replies as well from some interesting individuals. And I mean, look, it just continues, right? OpTic were tweeted about this. People are replying and just unbelievable scenes. So then we found ourselves in this position where DreamFire had also made it to be in that match point situation, but TSM had just won 2 games in a row to secure themselves also over the threshold. So despite the fact that OpTic have by far the most points here, that doesn't matter. It's about who wins the next game, and if it's any of those teams in the top 7, at least in this situation, they win the World Championship. And that's exactly what TSM then went on to do, which is crazy stuff, because as we saw earlier, they were like 13th in the rankings. They had barely any points. They had like 17 points, while OpTic had 70. But they iced up big time towards the end here, won 3 games in a row, and that secured them the dub, which is just absurd stuff. And obviously Imperial Hull, a large part of this. Scump's been playing with him a fair bit on stream. And it's impressive really from TSM, because I think there's been 2 teams, maybe it's Dark Zero and it's TSM, that have basically won everything. Because as far as I'm concerned, kind of Battle Royale esports have never appealed to me massively. I don't think they've ever really worked particularly well from a competitive perspective. Fortnite now, you know, you just build a box and fight around it like it's just a bit of a shambles. The way that Apex works is much better from a competitive perspective, and the fact that there are like just a couple of teams that have won the majority of the tournaments it shows that there is a skill gap in place, and it's not just RNG. You can get unlucky, definitely can happen, but generally the better teams, the cream tends to rise to the top, basically, is what it seems like to me. And that's good for the longevity of an esport. So yeah, Imperial Hal, as he says, the real GOAT wins then. What a performance from these guys to come back from where they were to win 3 in a row to get the dub. And yeah, unfortunate for OpTic after leading the entire way in a way. You know, they got the first team that had a chance, but very consistent, just didn't quite get the wins when it mattered. And yeah, they just about fall short, and the tournament concludes. There was a lot of reaction to this as well from, even as aBeZy says, insane finals, back-to-back wins for the championship, back-to-back wins for the championship. So yeah, crazy day, but overshadowed in some sense by some of the purely outrageous comments that are being made against OpTic and the OpTic fans and the OpTic team as a result of that whole drama. So yeah, confusing at the very least. Just one final thing to close out the video for you guys wanted to mention I thought was pretty cool, because we just mentioned Kenny there, and he's interested in this stuff as well, plays a fair bit of Apex. These are a list of the COD Champs winners if the opponents won. So it's a little bit confusing to get your head around. The idea is that if every COD Champs Grand Final for the last, I mean, what, there's been 10 of them now, maybe 11 actually, from 2013 through to 2023, if all of those finals went the other way, what would have happened? So, for example, Karma has won all 3 of the World Championship Grand Finals that he's been in. So if they went the other way, he would have 0 rings, as I think would Crimsix, because he's never lost a World Championship Grand Final. Same story with Scump. So all of those people disappear. So it's kind of actually sad almost to look at this as a fan of European and UK Call of Duty, because there's never been, apart from HyDra, who won it most recently, there hasn't been a UK player to win COD Champs. But we've had some good chances, and if all the Grand Finals were reversed, Rambo would have 2 rings, JCat would still have 2, because JCat's made 4 Champs Grand Finals, lost 2, won 2. So he stays at 2. Octane, for example, stays at 1, because he lost a Grand Final, won a Grand Final at Champs, so that kind of aligns there. He lost the Grand Final in Black Ops 4, right? United versus 100 Thieves. Rambo would have 2, he currently has 0. Bance would have 2, which, because he lost in Cold War and also in Black Ops 3. We have Enable would also have 2, Priestahh would have 2, he of course now has 1, so, you know, it's still okay, but it's kind of, I'm sure these guys, especially people who made 2 Champs Grand Finals, lost both of them. That's pretty frustrating, right? Interesting that Simp and aBeZy and Cellium would all still have 2. Actually, Cellium has 1, I guess, right now, but it wouldn't change Simp and aBeZy's numbers. Insight is here, he'd have 2, CleanX with 2, and then also the likes of Joe and Josh and Rated, Black Ops 3 World Championship. So, you know, it could be a very different history. Nameless would have a ring, Stainville would have a ring from, of course, way back in the day, COD Ghost, I'm pretty sure, Grand Finals with Envy. In the case of Nameless and then Stainville, I'm guessing Black Ops 2 Envy team. But anyway, thought that's pretty interesting. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this madness in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.